All right. Welcome to Pro Football's First 50 Years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, you can go online. I'm strictly talking the first 50 years. Now, if you go back online, like especially into the 20s and the 30s, I mean, you can find a football game. You can find like the box score of a game, obviously, who won the game, who lost, or how far touchdown was, how far maybe somebody kicked a field goal, the attendance of the game, obviously the stadium where the game was played at, maybe even the starting lineups for each team. But exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we can take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, just a little news flash here for you. There ain't no fancy videos here, nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. And today's game, well, I'll tell you, a few more of these, and let me tell you what, Vince Lombardi will be able to run for governor of the state of Wisconsin. October 4th, 1959, the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers at City Stadium, which really wasn't City Stadium. It was more like the second City Stadium, which really wasn't City Stadium at all because now it's called Lambeau Field. Did you get that? Because there will be a test at the end of this video. But this would be the second game of the season for obviously both these teams. And the Packers, who started 1-10-1 in 1958, who were 1-10-1 in 1958, would start off 2-0 in 1959. And boy, let me tell you what, Anthony had a successful exhibition season, and they're starting the season 2-0. Boy, let me tell you what. Yeah, Vince Lombardi was starting to become the talk of the town. Let me tell you what. This would not be a banner year for the Detroit Lions. Sometimes it's like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Maybe the curse of Bobby Lane was starting to take a hold, huh? I mean, after 1957, they won the championship. They beat the Browns. I think it was 59-14. Close game. But this would not be a good year for the Detroit Lions. They would slip a little bit. They would come back to life. And then, in fact, in 1962, the Detroit Lions would become the only team during 1962 to actually beat the Packers, who, to me, in my eyes anyway, would be the 62 Packers. Have to put them up there as one of the top 5 teams of all time, without question. I'm an old fart. I'm not even putting the 72 Dolphins in there. Sorry. Too easy of a schedule. Too much of a joke of a schedule. Anyway, I said, I mean, if you're a Lion fan, 1957, 1957 and counting. But it's not quite as bad as the 1947 Chicago Cardinals. So if you're a fan of the Cardinals, you've been waiting even longer. So, but let's check out the schedule, shall we? All right, the Green Bay Packers. And I said, they had a successful exhibition. They went 4-2. They lost the first one. They lost a couple close games here. 14-0 to the Giants, which just happened to was in Bangor, Maine, which happened to be the first ever professional football game in the state of Maine. But they played in some odd places. Like, first game they played was in County Stadium. So they played a home game against Chicago to start their exhibition season. Then they went to Kezar Stadium to play the 49ers. And, Kezar Stadium was the home of the 49ers. But after that, the next 4 games were all neutral sites. Basically, them and the Eagles flew all the way out to Portland, Oregon to play in a exhibition game. Then they played in Bangor, Maine. Then they went down south, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and they took on the Redskins. And then the last game they played in Bloomington, Minnesota, where they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-10. They started off their season with a tough 9-6 victory over the Bears. And to be frank, that the Packers actually could have won by even a little bit more. Paul Hornung missed a couple real short field goals. There was another field goal that slipped through the hands of Bart Starr when he fumbled it. Packers could have scored even more points. And then here they play another home game against the Detroit Lions. Now you'll notice here, which wound up happening quite often, was the Packers played a lot of their home games early on because it was cold. It would get very cold, obviously in Green Bay, and they would usually, the last two games would be on the coast against the Rams and the 49ers, as they were here. Now for the Detroit Lions, they pretty much had the same thing. They had a lot of neutral site games. Boulder, Colorado, they played the Rams. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. For their first game. Then they played in Norman, Oklahoma against the Cardinals. Let's see. Then they played in Akron, Ohio against the Browns. Then they played at Briggs Stadium, their home stadium, against the Giants. Then they they beat the Eagles in Toledo, Ohio. And then they finished up their season, once again, another home game against Briggs Stadium against the Browns. Then they started the season off on a bright spot. Against the Redskins. They would win 52-14. But as you'll notice here, I'm sorry. This was another exhibition game. I do apologize. They played 7 exhibition games. They started off with a loss against the Colts, and then they started off with a loss here against the next game. Obviously, was against the Packers here. So they started off 0-2. They oddly played 7 preseason games. Most of the other teams played 6, but they played 7 preseason games. Crazy, absolutely crazy the way it was back then. But you'll notice, they were 3-8-1. They tied the Steelers. They beat the Rams, who were not very good. They beat the Cardinals. And, they beat the Rams twice. And then they beat the Cardinals. And then they tied the Steelers. So, other than that, it was not a very good year for the Detroit Lions. I said, but usually they always play tough. A lot of times one of the problems was, especially as we got much later into the 50s and then throughout the 60s, a lot of times their offense was never super spectacular, but their defense was always tough, led by Alex Karras. The Lions, of course, had done very well in the 50s. 52, 53, they beat the Browns. 54, the Browns would beat them. 55, the Rams won. 56, the Giants won. And 57, the Lions would win. So in the 50s, the Lions went to 4 championship games, and they would win 3 of them. So they were a good team in the 50s. Good on the defense and good on the offense, I said. But as kind of, I guess, more or less kind of like as Bobby Lane kind of thing put a curse on them. Their offense was never super spectacular. Once we got into this real late 50s and into the 60s, but their defense was always tough. Now, this game here was played at City Stadium. Well, actually, it was City Stadium 2. There was a City Stadium 1, then there was a City Stadium 2. There wasn't named City Stadium 2 for very long. It got the name of Lambeau Field after Curly Lambeau passed away in 1965. So let's share our screen here once again, then we'll go over a little bit of the history here of City Stadium. Or as it's named in Wikipedia, Lambeau Field. All right. So Lambeau Field, it's an outdoor athletic stadium, no kidding, located in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the home field of the Packers. It opened in 1957 as City Stadium. So this is 1959. It was called City Stadium, replacing the original City Stadium at Green Bay East High School as the Packers' home field. So it was formerly known as, I guess, New City Stadium or City Stadium 2 for its first 8 seasons. It was renamed in August 1965 in memory of Packers founder, player, and longtime head coach Earl Curly Lambeau. I do apologize. Who had died 2 months earlier. So from 1957 through like halfway through 1965, it was named either City Stadium 2, I've seen it in that, but also, or maybe New City Stadium. The seating capacity of 81,444, Lambeau Field is the second largest stadium in the NFL. It is now the largest venue in the state of Wisconsin. Let's see. Lambeau Field is the oldest continually operating NFL stadium. 2007, the Packers completed their 51st season at Lambeau, breaking the all-time NFL record set by the Bears at Wrigley Field from 1921 to 1970. While Soldier Field in Chicago is older, the Bears did not play their home games there until 1971. And the team did not play there during stadium renovations in 2002. So only the Red Sox at Fenway Park and the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field have longer active home field tenures in American professional sports. Packers seek a modern facility. Since 1925, the Packers have played at 25,000-seat original City Stadium located behind Green Bay East High School. However, by the 1950s, it was considered inadequate for the times. It was built almost entirely of wood, and East High's locker room facilities were considered inadequate even in the 20s. Visiting teams often dressed before the game at Hotel Northland, where the Packers' opponents stayed at the time. The stadium could not be expanded. East High's location ruled out any expansion to the south, and it could not be expanded to the north or the east due to its location along the East River. Officials in Milwaukee, where the Packers had played a part of their schedule since 1933, knew that City Stadium was less than ideal as an NFL venue. They built Milwaukee County Stadium in 1953 in hopes of luring the Packers there full time. As originally built, County Stadium was double the size of City Stadium. Soon after County Stadium opened, the other NFL owners threatened to force the Packers to move to Milwaukee unless they built a new stadium. In August 1955, the Packers announced plans for a new stadium in Green Bay with a seating capacity of 32,000. And as in this game, there was a little over 32,000 came for this game that we're about to talk about. In April 1956, Green Bay voters responded by approving a bond issue to finance the new stadium. The original cost in 1957 was $960,000, which was paid off in 1978, and its seating capacity was 32,500. The new stadium was the first modern stadium built specifically for an NFL franchise. At the time, the 11 other NFL teams were playing either in facilities shared with Major League Baseball teams or in other pre-existing shared facilities. The site, now bordered on 3 sides by the village of, was selected because it had a natural slope, ideal for creating the bowl shape, along with expansive parking. The new stadium, originally known as New City Stadium, was officially opened in week 1 of the 1957 season on September 29th as the Packers beat the Bears. And this specific season, 1959, the first game of the season, the Packers played home and they played against the Bears, and they would win as well. In the ceremony at halftime, the stadium was dedicated by Vice President Richard Nixon. Also in attendance on the platform were reigning Miss America and NFL Commissioner Bert Bell and the Bears owner George Halas on a brief leave from coaching. And there was some expansion. Demand for tickets at the new stadium easily outstripped supply, not coincidentally after the arrival of Coach Vince Lombardi in 1959. 1961, 4 years after it opened, the stadium's capacity was increased to 38,000. And you can just see, like, the capacity just kept climbing. The stadium went to 38,000. Since then, they increased the stadium. The bowl increased to 42,000 in 1963 to almost 51,000 in 1965. Anyway, 1970, 56,000. Yeah, so, and then put some private boxes in there. It's just an absolute beautiful, beautiful stadium. So let me go. Obviously, we'll show some pictures here. And you can see, like, in the beginning, it was like out in basically in the middle of nowhere. Right? I mean, look at this. I mean, this is just like, my goodness. I mean, the parking lot, and when it was gravel. Lambeau Field used to be in the middle of a cornfield, for crying out loud. 1957 photo. And the parking lot was gravel. So, like, I believe this is the parking lot. Look, I can see, like, maybe that might be the gravel there. But I mean, look, there's like nothing around, You can see some houses here and stuff, but I mean, for the most part, there's not much of anything going on around it. And you can see here, as it was being built, look, geez, Jiminy Crickets. Look, there's nothing over here. Nothing. Wow, there's nothing here. I don't know what that is there. A little something going on here, but this is as it's being, built. September 29th, 1957, the birth of Lambeau Field. So you obviously now you can see here, right? See the stadium. This is much later on because this is not what it looked like initially. But you can see, the parking lot here. Where are we at here? September 29th, 1957. First game at Lambeau. Packers' first game at City Stadium. So I guess this is what it looked like. I guess just before the first game. Where are we at here? I mean, you could start seeing, some of these older pictures here. All right. See, now, this is Lambeau Field, for crying out loud. But, you're going to see, obviously, as we go along, a couple more pictures, Lambeau Field is like totally, it's like a bowl now. Wasn't the case. Look, you had some stands here, but, this wasn't connected. So you can easily see where they easily could add on, tens of thousands of more seats. But nice size stands here, nice size stands here. But it's kind of, nice size, and it goes around here, and then it gets a little bit smaller over here. As I said, then over here, there's some stands here, but there's like nothing over here. Nothing. Let's see. Circa 1957 to 1960. It's very, very nice, but you can see obviously a lot of stands here, but like nothing. It's very small over here. And then you can see they started connecting. Over here, got some connection going on there. Is this something? What do we got here? It's kind of the same thing. All right, you can see here, right? The nice stands there, nice stands over here. Now, this is a Lambeau glossy 8x10 photo of the stadium called Opening Day. So this must be what it looked like 1957 against those Bears. But then obviously, as time went on, they kept adding and adding and adding, and now here it is, like all its glory. Yeah, it's all connected. It's like one big bowl. Absolutely, one big, beautiful, beautiful stadium. I said that's football. This is all right. I mean, this is. They added a bunch of boxes in here, luxury boxes and all, but it's all. Right? And you can see how built up it is around here. Yeah, I mean, obviously, whether there's a parking lot here, or they got a roadway here, obviously a roadway over here. They got some streets, but got some houses. But you can see actually got some trees there now, as where before 1957 it was pretty desolate. Some of those areas around there. But to me, this is the way football is supposed to be. Outside, in the elements, on grass. That's football. None of this dome stadium stuff. I just, can't stand it. I absolutely can't stand it. I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful ballpark. My son and I were there a few years ago when the Cowboys played the Packers there. Game went to overtime. The Packers won in overtime. Great game. People are so nice. It's absolutely coming from South Jersey, which is right by Philadelphia. Every other word you hear around here sometimes is a 4-letter word. But I mean, I tell you what, boy, these people around here, the people in Green Bay, let me tell you what, couldn't be nicer. Couldn't be nicer. Friendly, nice, fantastic, beautiful ballpark, beautiful people, fantastic time. So I got 4 articles here. Hopefully, if we have time, I'll be able to read them all right? Because some of them have quite a bit to say, and we've got some pictures here to show as well. So we'll start off with my my go-to paper with the Green Bay Packers, the Green Bay Press-Gazette. They always have fantastic coverage during the regular season of the Green Bay games. So now, not only did they somewhere along the line, don't know when, but somewhere along the line, they went away from basically having a play-by-play. And you go back into like the 20s, 30s and all, you go to Green Bay Press-Gazette and you go to a Packer game, they'll have a play-by-play description of what happened. They don't do that for 1959. So where they stopped, I'm not exactly sure, but they do a fantastic job of covering the game. So, and they got some pictures here too. So let's go to the October 5th, 1959 edition of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Packers whip Detroit 28-10, tied for lead. And interestingly, Lamar McCann, I mean, Bart Starr was not the starting quarterback for the Packers to start things off. I believe it was week 8 that Bart Starr officially became the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. But Lamar McCann started things off in the Vince Lombardi era. Lion quarterback Tobin wrote, and Earl Morrall was around for a long time, lost 60 yards trying to pass against the Packers in City Stadium Sunday, and the picture above shows how it can happen. The Packers defense barrels in on route number 18 and forces too quick a throw in the first quarter. Rushers are Dan Curry, 58, right here. Nate Borden, number 87, right here. Henry Jordan, 74. Bill Quinlan, 83. And Bill Forrester, number 71. Lamar McCann, this was I guess pretty much his best day. Obviously, he had 4 touchdown passes. So. McCann pitches 4 TD passes, 2 to McGee. The Packers set off the aerial bomb at City Stadium Sunday afternoon, and the big explosion blasted the Detroit Lions 28-10 and skyrocketed the Packers into a tie for first place in the Western Division with the San Francisco 49ers. Packers and the 49ers are now the only undefeated teams in the National Football League. A lot of 1-1. I mean, look at this. Look at this. The whole Eastern Conference is all 1-1. There's only 2 undefeated teams. 49ers beat the Rams and the Packers beat Detroit. So Green Bay and the 49ers stood all alone at top. I mean, the whole Eastern Conference, all 1-1. And they'll battle it out. The Packers and the 49ers will battle it out in the national the following week. And the Packers would win. So the Packers, after 3 weeks with Vince Lombardi, would actually be 3-0, and the only team in the NFL after 3 weeks would be undefeated, and it would sit obviously atop the Western Conference at 3-0. Then reality would start hitting Mr. Lombardi and the Packers, and they would start losing. So the Packers and 49ers, they'll battle it out at City Stadium next Sunday for sole possession of the Western Division and the right to reign for at least 1 week as the lone unbeaten. Now, the one thing with the 49ers, I mean, not so much here, I mean, but one of the things that they were able to do, my dog's at my feet. I got to move my feet. Sorry. Is, as you can see here, the 49ers could put up some points. Usually their defense was their problem. So not so much after the first 2 weeks, where they only gave up, 14 points. But you can see they scored 58. The Packers had the big defensive stick working again, and today they're the second stingiest point allowers in the league, having permitted just 16 points, including 1 touchdown, 3 field goals, and 1 extra point in 2 games. The 49ers have given up only 14 points. The Bays needed an offensive showing Sunday to take some of the heat off the defense, and they utilized 2 quarters. The first and the fourth, the good scoring advantage, getting 2 touchdowns in each of the periods before 32,150 partisan fans. Lamar McCann, playing his second complete game as the Packer quarterback, detonated 4 touchdown passes, a 12-yarder to Gary Knafelk, and a 4-yard look into Don McElhaney in the first period, and a perfect strikes of 41 and 36 yards to Max McGee in the fourth. While the difference was 18 points, the Packers had themselves tangled up in a hair-raiser until the last few minutes when they scored TD number 4. The Packers had a 14-0 lead at the close of the first quarter and then promptly went flat offensively. They were able to produce only 1 first down in the second quarter and 1 in the third. The Lions, meanwhile, nicked the Packer defense for its first touchdown in 5 1/2 quarters of football in the second quarter. Nick Pietrozani, I'm going to say, plunging over from 2 yards out. They made it 14-10 with the longest field goal ever kicked by Jim Martin in the league play at 50 yards in the third quarter. Thus, the bitter battle awaited a turning point until Jesse Whittington recovered Pietrosani's fumble on the Lion 41, and McCann uncorked his scoring pitch to McGee on the first play at 1:40 of the fourth period. So even then, they had the Packers deep the offense really started struggling. They were saying that second quarter they got 1 first down, third quarter they got 1 first down, and even here when they scored a touchdown, they didn't get a first down. They threw a touchdown pass, but it wasn't like they marched down the field, got 2 or 3 first downs, and scored a touchdown. So I mean, they went a long period without getting any first downs. Packer coach Vince Lombardi was hoping for the big play, the long game, the quick touchdown, and some of each was forthcoming. There were 7 plays. First quarter, McElhaney's 36-yard run that became ill-fated when McCann fumbled on the next play on Detroit's 9. Is play number 2. McCann's 12-yard TD pass to Knafolk. Now, play number 3. This is all in the first quarter. A 22-yard run by Horning. Play number 4, McCann's 47-yard pass to McGee. Play 5, McCann's looking TD pass to McElhaney, which was set up by Horning's run and the pass to McGee. Fourth quarter. Play number 6, McCann's 41-yard TD pass to McGee. Play number 7, McCann's 36-yard pass to McGee. McCann had excellent protection, getting dumped for only 10 yards and losses trying to pass. But the Lions were murder, allowing the Bays only 112 yards rushing, which was pretty low for them. The Packers, even throughout the exhibition season, and especially the Packers got some good running against the Bears in week 1. They were only held to 112 yards, which is really low for the Packers. McCann and Horning with one pass completed 8 out of 17 attempts for 160 yards, with McGee catching 3 for 124 yards. McCann threw 3 passes the first quarter and completed them all, 2 for touchdowns. The Packers exerted terrific pressure on their one-time teammate, Tobin Rote, who still managed 16 completions in 31 attempts for 158 yards. But the Bays intercepted 3 of his passes and threw Rote and Earl Morrall for 60 yards and losses trying to pass. Tobin Rote was injured late in the third quarter when tackled hard by Bill Quinlan and Dan Curry. Morrall played until the last few minutes when Rote finished out. Bob Freeman made 2 interceptions, and Bobby Dillon won the first pass steal for the Packers this year in the league play. And there were 2 recoveries by Lion fumbles by Whittington and Bettis, giving the defense 5 big plays for the day. The key to the Packers' defense was the giant rush put on the Lions quarterbacks. 2 plays before McGee's first TD catch, Bill Forrester caught Morrall for a 17-yard pass. Bill Forrester caught Morrall for a 17-yard pass. On the next play, Whittington recovered Petrosini's fumble. Henry Jordan, Dave Hanner, and Forrester smeared Morrall back 12 yards on the Lions' 1-yard line, almost as safety, to set up a punt from deep in the end zone in the Pack's last TD. The Packers scored their 2 touchdowns in 13 minutes of the first quarter. The Lions, following the opening kickoff, made 4 yards and quickly had to punt. On the Bays' first play, McElhaney cut outside his left tackle, with Bob Skoronski making a key block, and hit his right sideline for a 36-yard gain to the 9, where Dave Witzel applied the brakes. The Lions grabbed McCann's fumble on the next play, but on Rote's second play, Freeman intercepted Rote's rollout throw aimed at Cassidy on the 31 and returned to the Lions' 9. Horning then lost 3 yards, but McCann hit Knafolk, who was alone in the end zone, for the touchdown. Horning booted the first of 4 extra points. The Bay defense got tough after the Lions made 2 first downs, and the Packers put on their longest drive of the game. They went 84 yards and 8 plays for a touchdown. McElhaney and Taylor made 11. Horning ran 22 behind a good block by Fred, or as I call it, Fuzzy Thurston, and McCann hurled 47 yards to McGee to the 5. 3 plays later, McCann hit McElhaney in the end zone. Jim David was on Don's back when the throw was completed. It was 14-0. Midway in the second heat, the Lions went 52 yards for a touchdown. The big plays, were Rote passes of 16 yards to Jib Gibbons and 23 yards to Jerry Reichow, setting up Petrosini's TD leap. Wayne converted for a 14-7 count. Just before the half ended, Martin was slightly wide on a field goal from the 45. The third quarter was a dogfight. The Packers lost the ball after making a first down, but they got it right back when Dillon intercepted. 2 McGee punts and 1 by Morrall put the ball on the Packers' 37, chiefly on a 27-yard punt return by Barr. The Bays tightened chiefly on a crushing tackle on rote by Quinlan and Curry, and Martin booted his 50-yard field goal. McCann's 2 TD passes to McGee marked the early part of the fourth quarter, and in each case, Max faked out Barr. On the second, McGee juggled the ball as he went across the goal line, but regained possession once he reached pay dirt. With 5:40 left and the count 28-10, Rote hurled a long shot to Cassidy, but Freeman drifted back and made an over-the-shoulder interception. The Lions held, and Rote came back to roll up 2 first downs. Finally, losing the ball on downs on the Bay 21 after running 16 yards. In the final moments, Jim Ringo and Nate Borden were injured. Just as he did a week ago, McCann ran out the final few seconds on a quarterback sneak. Let's see. I know. And we have this right here. The Packer 49 game at City Stadium next Sunday is sold out. Battle for first place. Be the only 2 undefeated teams. The last of 25 single seats were snapped up this morning. We still have a good supply of tickets for the Redskin game on November 22nd. The Packers now have sold out their first 3 games here, starting with the Bear and Lion contest. All sellout crowd of 32,150 paid. All right. Troublesome tooth. Packer coach Vince Lombardi had a troublesome tooth extracted Saturday afternoon after the Packers' 28-10 victory over the Lions at City Stadium Sunday. Lombardi quipped, "I'd better get another one pulled next Saturday." Hey, I guess if it works, why not, right? Lombardi Lord's defense. Happy to discover Bays have long ball. Rival football coaches seldom find areas of agreement for obvious reasons, but the Packers' delighted Vince Lombardi and the Detroit Lions' slightly crestfallen George Wilson were in complete accord on the turning point in Sunday's afternoon pleasant transaction at an overcast City Stadium. With a deep bow to the rock-ribbed Packer defense, Lombardi, his face still aglow in the wake of his second straight victory, admitted Jesse Whittington's recovery of that fumble early in the fourth quarter was the turning point. No question about it. We scored right after that and took that 21-10 lead, which obviously, is very big because back then, obviously, an 11-point lead was not a touchdown and a field goal as the way it is nowadays. If you get a touchdown, you can get a 2-point conversion and a field goal. Not so much there, right? That really made it for us. Wilson, who earlier demonstrated he hadn't lost his sense of humor in the gloom of a second straight defeat, agreed. It was 14-10 when Petrosani fumbled, and boom, the Packers scored, he said sadly. Though he wasn't inclined to second-guess the officials, as he was quick to point out, George wasn't at all sure that the Lions should have lost possession on the play. I won't know until I see the pictures, of course, he conceded, but you don't know if Nick's knee was on the ground. If it had been, the ball should have been dead. Hence, of course, no Packer touchdown. For Lombardi, who found it absolutely wonderful, this second success was something of a revelation. We found the answer to one thing we were undecided about. Vince said, I don't know, it says since. Well, the C is right next to the V on the typing, so maybe they tried to put in a V here, but they hit the C instead. Vince said, not without a trace of satisfaction, I didn't think we had the capability of striking long, he observed, and we did it 3 times today. But the Packers' purposeful head man declared the thing that kept us in the game was the defense. If you trace the history of the National Football League, you'll find that most of the time the 2 teams in the championship game each year are the league's 2 best defensive teams. He agreed in response to a question that Forrester and Curry did a real fine job of covering Rote on rollouts. Bobby Dillon made some real fine plays too. In fact, it's hard to single out any one player individually, Vince declared. That defense is such a unit. It was such a team effort. Lombardi also came away impressed with the Lions' defense. That was a tough defensive line, he declared. Punctuating his comment was a low whistle. They have the best forefront men I've seen around in Glass, McCord, Maines, and Karras, Vince added. They're very agile, very strong. It's the first time which covers 8 games, including our exhibition games, that we've been stopped running, which is true because they only had 112 yards rushing. And we'll get a chance to look at the statistics, but you'll see that the Packers tried to run the ball quite a bit, I'm sure, in this game. He and his aides did discover and exploit a weakness in the Lions secondary. However, he admitted they channeled their long ball efforts to Terry Barr's area, Vince disclosed, although he said it was not because of a weakness in Barr's coverage, but a weakness in the defense at the time. What he was asked about quarterback Lamar McCann, what else can I say but words of praise? Vince replied with a happy grin. He was great. Had McCann converted often at the line of scrimmage? Yes, he did, was the answer. We got fooled a few times when they switched defenses on us, but things also worked out well at other times. Vince grinned and added, it gets to be like a chess game. In the boisterous Packer dressing room, even noisier than it had been following last week's KO of the Bears, Whittington described his key grab matter-of-factly. No, I didn't steal it. I just popped out of Petrosini's hands. Oh, it just popped out of Petrosini's hands, and everybody was clawing at it. I guess I caught it in the air. I can't even remember, Jesse grinned. I stole one just before that. The ex-Texas Western ace said, but the officials wouldn't give it to us. Commended for his spectacular first-quarter run, Don McElhenney paused in the act of removing a sock to Riley in part. About the time I hit the 10-yard line, I wished I'd been somebody else, anybody with a little bit more speed. Drawing, Max McGee, who had led Lion defenders a merry chase, shrugged off one of his better Packer afternoons, observing it was another big day for the old defense. The old defense, it was volunteered, hadn't done badly either. The old offense, it was volunteered, hadn't done badly either. We sputtered around quite a bit, Max replied with a smile, but we finally made it. If that old defense keeps holding up, we're going to be tough. A jubilant Jerry Kramer, dripping his way back from the shower, effervescence. Boy, isn't that sweet? Sputter, sputter, fiddle around, and then wham. If we get an offense like that, defense, look out. Big, balding Henry Jordan, a major defensive hero, clapped McCann on the back as their paths crossed and told him with an ear-to-ear grin, that's the way I like to see it. Thread the needle. Lamar modestly confessed, I missed a few out there. I know that. They were red dogging us a lot in the second and third quarters, and I was having a hard time finding them out there. That defense of ours sure did a job, too. Nate Borden, the last man to leave, was dressing in front of his locker, a bandage on his knee, injured on the final play of the game. I think we're on our way. The rugged defensive end said softly, I think we're finally on our way. The Lions' Wilson attributed the invaders' downfall to generosity. We kept up our average, he said dryly. We gave the ball away 5 times against Baltimore last week, and we gave it away 5 times today. You can't give the ball away that many times and expect to win. How true he is. Every time you do give it away, the Lions' head man pointed out, the other team picks up and almost invariably scores on you. Scanning the statistics sheet, he quipped, the only thing about this is our punting, 44.8 yard average. We've been punting good. I think we'll punt all week. Almost in the same breath, he mused, poor Terry Barr. He's hurt, and we tried to get by with him. He's got a bad leg, so that might have been one of the reasons why he got torched a couple times for touchdowns. What about Yale Larry? Larry could have played, but we've got 10 more games to play, George noted. He might have got hurt again, and then you're in trouble. So actually, their Hall of Fame defensive back, Yale Larry, didn't even play in the game. As for the Packers, he admitted they've got a lot of hustle. They've got the desire now with 2 wins under their belt. But as to how far they'll go, it's hard to tell in this league. But it's a hell of a big thing psychologically for them to win the first 2, the ex-Bear and declared. But I think their win over the Bears was a bigger one than this one today. It actually helped them in the ball game today. What sideline wrote out of action most of the fourth quarter. He's got a broken nose, Wilson disclosed. It was broken when he was shaken up late in the third quarter. Wrote, Packer field general for 7 seasons had little to say. We expect them to be tough, he said ruefully, and they were. There we go. Higher mathematics. Some rabid Packer rooters started to turn page 18, column 3. Pittsburgh on big play. Now the traditional countdown at 58 seconds this time, but became entangled in the web of higher mathematics. He fell 2 seconds behind upon reaching 50 and gave up as a bad job. The crowd picked up that chant at 10, however, and ran out the clock. Curly's impressed. Curly Lambeau, the Packers founder and first head coach, was impressed with this latest performance by the home forces. Spectating from the press box, Curly declared, this is the best I've seen Green Bay look in a long time. We got this here. Right. Here's McCann. There's Alex Karras right here. I mean, this is protection right here. Right? I mean, you got 7 guys in to protect them, so you got a 3-man route. Right? You got the three guys here. You got looks like Carrick's is maybe just squeaking by Kramer over here. But these guys here, these 2 guys are taken up. You got another guy here. If somebody squeezes through, right? I'm not sure. It's tough to see with the picture, but this is protection. This is what you want. Oops, sorry. That's what you want. That's protection right there. You got some right here. Right. Lonesome man, Max McGee, and the lonesome arrives at the goal line en route to a 3rd Packer touchdown. There's McGee. There's Kramer. I'm not sure what he's doing. No, not Kramer. I'm sorry. Packer halfback Don McElhaney right here. There you go. Off on a 36-yard excursion, longest run from scrimmage. Down to the Detroit 9-yard line. As far as Greg over here, number 75. So he's hurt here. Can't keep a good man down. Bobby Dillon, when this picture left panel was taken the second quarter. Phil Bankston is in the picture, defensive coordinator. Actually, here he spears a Tobin road pass right here. Right here, you got we got Don McElhaney cradles a perfect look-in pass for the Packers' 2nd touchdown in the first quarter. Programs hurled by slightly hysterical fans dot the sky as the final gun cracks. There's a sack right here. Henry Jordan puts clamps on Earl Morrill midway through the fourth quarter. So, very, very successful day for the Packers. Very, very successful day. All right, so now we got, who we got here? We got the Post Crescent. The October 5th, 1959 version of the Post Crescent. All right. McCann fires 4 TD passes as Bays trip Lions 28-10. Oops. Yeah. All right, here we go. There's that touchdown pass that we saw. Green Bay set off the aerial bomb at City Stadium Sunday afternoon, and the big explosion blasted the Lions 28-10. It kept the Packers in a tie for first place. Packers and 49ers are now the only undefeated teams in the National Football League, and they'll battle it out in City Stadium next Sunday for sole possession of Western Division. The Packers had the big defensive stick working again, and today they're the stingiest point allowers in the league, having permitted the second stingiest, I think it is. Oh, yeah, those. I guess they both gave up. I guess the 49ers and them both gave up. Well, hold on here. Hold on. It doesn't show the points allowed. All right. The Bays needed an offensive showing Sunday to take some of the heat off their defense, and they utilized 2 quarters, the first and fourth, to good scoring advantage, getting 2 touchdowns in each of the periods. Lamar McCann playing a second complete game as Packer quarterback detonated 4 touchdown passes, a 12-yarder to Gary Knafel, and a 4-yard swifty to Don McElhaney in the first period, and perfect strikes of 41 and 36 yards to Max McGee in the fourth. Now, usually what winds up happening is it seems like the Post Crescent says a lot of the same stuff that the Green Bay Press Gazette says. Let me see if I can get somewhere here. Yeah, see, Whittington recovery was the turning point. Lombardi and Wilson agreed. They both agreed on it. Let's see. Trying to find. I got 2 other articles. I'm trying to find the. There we go. Here we go. Nick Petrosanti, former Notre Dame star, goes over the top for the Detroit's only touchdown against the Packers on Sunday. There he is, number 33. Where? Well, I know somewhere we'll get a chance to see the Packers and the all right. The Detroit Free Press. I know one of these papers has the statistics for each game. Gotta move my legs again. All right, let's see it. The Detroit Free Press, the October 5th version, 1959 of the Detroit Free Press. And let's see what they got to say here. All right. First Colts, now this. Green Bay, oops, I got to refresh this here. Now this Green Bay 28, Lions 10. Our Lions flirted with disaster Sunday as they dallied and disaster struck them. The Green Bay Packers, no great outfit, cracked a soft-bellied Lion pass defense for double touchdowns in the first and fourth periods, and in between balked at a feeble Detroit attack to score a runaway 28-10 triumph before 32,150 in City Stadium. It was a dismal show which plummeted the Lions to the depths of despair. And in its aftermath came sharp words from head coach George Wilson. Wilson promised a new give 'em hell policy with his players and bluntly charged that some are not going all out. With such performance, there seems little hope for the Lions. In 2 weeks, they have lost to the best and lost to the supposed worst. It is difficult to say where the Lions rank between the world champion Baltimore Colts, who beat them last week, and the Packers at the moment, and they are below both. But this is more the result of the Lion shabbiness. They were shabby in the beginning and shabby at the end against the Packers. Green Bay took apart the Detroit pass defense, striking through the air for all 4 of its touchdowns and smartly stymied the Lion attack. 20 times the Lions had the ball against the Packers. 20 times the Lions had the ball against the Packers? Only twice did they score. And one of these efforts was a 50-yard field goal by Jim Martin. 20 times they had the ball? Jeez. The shame of this downfall was that the Lions were in position to win as late as the fourth period, despite offering 2 gift touchdowns to the Packers in the opening quarter of play. The Packers' first 2 scores emphasized the Oops. Here we go. There's maybe some stats. I emphasized the timely collapse of the Lions' defensive backfield. A fumble at the 9-yard line halted an early Packer push, but the Lions gave it right back to them when Bobby Freeman picked off one of Tobin Rote's passes, one of the 2 damaging interceptions off of Rote, and took it back to the 9. Lamar McCann then fired a 12-yard pass into the right corner of the end zone over the head of Gary Lowe and into the arms of Gary Knaffel for a 7-0 lead. The Packers were to catch the Lions flat-footed 3 more times. In each of these instances, the victim was Terry Barr, regarded as the sharpest of the Detroit defenders, but he was hurt. So they had a hurt guy out there. Late in the first period, McCann shot a pass to Max McGee, who swept past Barr and scooted 47 yards to the Detroit 5. A moment later, he connected with Don McElhaney from the hour for a 14-0 lead. The Lions' prospects were never darker than at that moment, but Detroit's defensive line suddenly tightened, and the Packers never crossed midfield again under their own power, and for that matter, produced only 1 more first down. With all this, the Lions made motions toward a revival. After a jittery 5 minutes in which pass receivers Hopalong Cassidy, Steve Junker, and Jim Gibbons dropped important throws. Late in the second period, Rote connected on 3 straight tosses, the last for 24 yards to Jerry Reichow to reach the Packer 1. Nick Petrosani dived for the touchdown, and the Lions were rebounding 14-7. They seemed to be on their way early in the third period when Jimmy David neatly intercepted a pass by McCann. But then Rote threw it back to the Packers at the Green Bay 40. Never again were the Lions a threat. They made it to the Packer 37 late in the period, but Rote was smashed down for a 9-yard loss. His nose was broken, and he left the game for most of the remaining time. Martin followed with his long field goal, longest of his career, to reduce Green Bay's lead to 14-10. Green Bay smashed all further Lion efforts. The Packers dumped substitute quarterback Earl Morrall for a 17-yard loss, and Petrosani followed with a fumble at the Detroit 41. Here, the Packers worked on Barr again. McGee, who had outmaneuvered Terry in the first period, whizzed past him again to take in a 41-yard throw from McCann for a clinching 21-10 lead. So once again, at that play, I said the coach said Barr had an injured leg. Tough to cover people if you got an injured leg. But late in the game, after smashing Morrall for another 12-yard loss on the Detroit 1, the Packers opened from – okay, there's the stats. Packers opened from their 36 and saw no reason to change their attack. The Packers sent McGee at Barr again, and the fleet end whizzed past Barr, took in McCann's throw, and breezed untouched to the final touchdown. It was a painful loss. In almost every statistical department, the Lions had outstripped Green Bay. Yet, the Packers remain leaders of the Western Division, unbeaten 2 games, and the Lions are in last place at 0-2, with the prospect of facing Baltimore again next Sunday. So now we'll go down. Yeah, so somehow the Lions, of course, lost twice to the Colts, who, of course, in '59 won the championship. But they started the season off. They had to play the Colts 2 times in the first 3 weeks of the season. So, all right, so now let's go down to the stats down here. We'll take a look. I said the Packers had done a very good job running the ball, but not so much here. Right. Rushing, they only got 112 yards, but they only completed 8 of 17 passes. McCann, he had 4 touchdown passes. Hard to argue with that, but he didn't even complete 50% of his passes. He threw 3 interceptions. So you can certainly see that, even though he had 4 touchdown passes, it wasn't a super spectacular performance on his part. But also, to give credit where credit's due, the Lions have a good defense, really good defense. And is that the only stats that they got? Eagles, Browns, and Cardinals, Pittsburgh, and what? Let's see, is there anything else here? Oh, maybe not. All right, so we got one more here. And then we got the Saginaw News. All right, here we go. Saginaw News. All right, so the October 5th, 1959 edition of the Saginaw News. Let's see what these guys got here. Lions fall apart again. Packers post 28-10 win. And here is Nick Petrosani. Plunged for 4 yards in the fourth quarter. Those are the stats. Detroit, same ones there. Usually they have one where they show who ran the ball and all of that and everything, but all right. Okay. Wilson is angered by loss. McCann-McGee paced Green Bay. The 1959 story of the Detroit Lions is that they can't stand in when they close in on victory. When they do, they collapse. They meekly give away the football, or their offense and defense disintegrates. Pass interceptions ruined the Lions when they led a week ago at Baltimore. More interceptions, fumbles, and shoddy pass defense were fatal to the Lions yesterday. They lost 28-10 to the revived Green Bay Packers after falling apart when they had a good chance to win. Coach George Wilson, confident a week ago, was deeply upset. He announced a get tough policy. You can bet there will be a chewing out after a game like this, growled the coach. There's no 2 ways about it. Some of these guys are going to catch it. Wilson did not go as far as Nixon did with Washington, but that might be the next step. Nixon warned his Redskins that 19 of them were in danger of losing their jobs. The Redskins responded yesterday with a 23-17 thrashing of Pittsburgh. Aha! Lions gave the Packers 2 first-period touchdowns. They narrowed the score to 14-10 on Nick Petrosani's 1-yard plunge and Jim Martin's 50-yard field goal. Detroit was holding the Packers to a standstill in the second and third quarters, and victory beckoned. That's when the Lions fell apart. The Packers, led by Lamar McCann pitching had it easy the rest of the way. McCann passed 41 and 36 yards to Max McGee for fourth quarter touchdowns. Both times, McGee faked around Terry Barr and left the Old Michigan back sprawled in his wake. 3 of the Packers' 4 touchdown passes worked through Barr's zone. Wilson disclosed after the game Barr had hurt a knee in practice on Thursday. We knew that, Wilson said, but we didn't know that it would affect his play. There's no reason for him not to tell us that his knee was slowing him down, that he couldn't cover McGee. The Lions' passing attack netted 202 yards, but it was gosh awful when it counted. Quarterback Tobin Rote had 3 aerials intercepted, making 8 interceptions for the Lions in 2 games. 8 interceptions. They threw 5 interceptions the week before and 3 in this one. 8 interceptions. That's just the way it was back then. That was not uncommon. I mean, nowadays you got teams that maybe don't even have 8 interceptions in a whole season. They had 8 interceptions in just 2 games. We're going to have some definite rules on the quarterbacking from now on, said Wilson. Roach's nose was broken early in the game, but he returned later after a stand-in Earl Morrall proved ineffective. Detroit's running attack was practically non-existent, called the most improver portion of the Lions game just 2 weeks ago. The ground offense was good for only 82 yards. All 4 Green Bay touchdowns resulted from passes from McCann, a Chicago Cardinal cast-off. And there's more to come for the Lions. Next week, they play their home opener against the world champion Baltimore Colts and Johnny Unitas. The Colts won't be feeling sorry for the reeling Lions after their own 26-21 spanking by the Chicago Bears. And once again, there's the statistics. Just trying to, let's say, usually there's the stats, but I mean, I know a lot of times in the past there's been where they have who ran the ball, how many times, and I don't see any of that. That's weird. I mean, they have some stats from some of the other games, but they don't have it's interesting here. There we go. Okay, we're going to go back. Going to go back in time. We're going to go back to the Green Bay Press Gazette, and I'll show you the stats there. One more time here. All right, share the screen with the Green Bay Press Gazette, and then we'll show you here. All right, here we go. We got some stats here. Okay. First downs rushing. Each team had 4. First downs passing. The Packers. So the Packers only had 10 first downs in the whole game, and somehow they scored 4 touchdowns with 10 first downs. I mean, that's not good sustained football. 272 total yards, nothing super spectacular. They only completed 8 out of 7. They only completed 8 out of 17 passes. Let's see, the Packers punted 8 times. Detroit punted 5 times, but that's because they had so many turnovers. They didn't punt the ball that much. So here we go. It says rushing. Petrosini gained 43 yards on 11 attempts, so he averaged, 4 yards a carry. Rote gained 18 and 2. But Johnson, 8 yards and 8 carries. Morrall, 2 and 1. Lewis, 11 yards and 4. Green Bay, McElhaney gained 52 yards in 6 attempts. But Horning, the big guys, Horning and Taylor picked up 60 yards in 24 attempts. So they averaged like 2.5 yards a carry. So that Detroit line was really, really good, as obviously once again we show here. Right, Packers only had 112 yards rushing, and how many carries did they have? 6, 20, 30, 33. They ran the ball 33 times for 112 yards, so a little over 3 yards a carry. So once again, that Detroit front was really, really good. And you got the pass in here, right? Rote attempted 31, completed 16 for 158 yards. But had 3 passes picked off. McCann, it was 7 out of 16. What they got here for 146 yards, but he had some the pass to McGee counted for like darn near like 80 yards, 2 pass completions. So I mean, you can see. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, but it was not a McCann. He was absolutely leading them to some victories, but they would the Packers would win their first 3. Then they would go on a long losing streak. And in the midst of that long losing streak was when Vince Lombardi took Lamar McCann out and put in Bart Starr as the starting quarterback. And as they say, the rest is history. So Packers win 28-10 at home. They would have another game the next week at home, be a battle for first place against the San Francisco 49ers. And the only 2 remain after 2 weeks. Of course, there was only 12 teams back then, but after 2 weeks, there was only 2 teams that were 2-0. Everybody else was 1-1, or two of the teams were 0-2. But you can certainly see with the Vince Lombardi coaching, the regime is really starting to take effect. So that's the way it was on this date, October 4th, 1959, between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers at City Stadium. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.